Leon Hale's boot pressed into the powdery surface of Theta 9, a dead moon so dry and silent that most survey crews treated it as background terrain, just rock and ash. But to Leon, silence was never empty. It was a waiting thing. He crouched beside a jagged cut in the crust, where a section had collapsed earlier that morning. Light from the overhead drone cast thin shadows across fractured sediment layers, like pages in a closed book. His gloved hand brushed away a patch of rust-red grit, revealing an edge. Not stone, not native alloy either. He froze, then toggled the comm. "Felix, bring the scanner, and your better attitude." A pause. "On my way," Felix replied, sounding unimpressed. Leon didn't care. He kept brushing, revealing a surface about the size of a hand. It was dull gray, curved slightly inward, with fine concentric ridges embedded in it. No corrosion, no pitting. Whatever this was, it had resisted the passage of time in a place that sandblasted everything else to ruin. Felix tromped over 5 minutes later, panting into his helmet. He dropped the equipment with a grunt and peered down. "Please tell me you didn't stop me mid-calibration for a piece of scrap." Leon gestured. "Run a depth sweep." Felix rolled his eyes but lifted the scanner. A soft hum pulsed from the device, then turned into a persistent oscillation. "Reading resonance," Felix muttered, tapping at the console. "Low band, non-random, repeating pattern, too regular for mineral activity. No match in the archives." "Is it transmitting?" Leon asked. Felix tilted the scanner. "Yes, it's still on, which should be impossible." Leon stood, brushing his knees off. "Then we're not looking at a ruin." Felix straightened, frowning now. "Don't jump. Could be residual field radiation from planetary collapse." "No field lasts 8 million years without recharging. Something under us is active." Beth Chambers arrived next, her dark visor angled downward as she stepped beside them. Her voice, always dry and precise, came through the channel. "Anton's on his way. I sent the site pings." "Good," Leon said. "He'll want to see this." Beth squinted at the exposed material. "No surface glyphs, but there's pattern logic in the structure. Look, these ridges have embedded symmetry. You see how they fold in groups of 7, then mirror?" Leon leaned in. She was right, and the spacing wasn't decorative. It reminded him of something. Input sequences. Old Earth tech used similar tactile formations. Not to impress, to interact. "I think this is a control node," he said softly. Beth nodded once. "If so, it's designed to be touched." Felix let out a breath. "Great. Let's all just touch the ancient alien machine buried in the moon of a dead world and see what happens." A shadow stretched across them as Anton Miles stepped into view. His silver-trimmed suit and rigid stance always made him seem taller than he was. He stared at the exposed edge for several seconds. "I thought this plateau was geologically inactive," he said. "It was," Leon replied, "until now." Anton eyed the scanner readout. "Signal origin?" 200 meters below, Felix answered. "Source is buried, still transmitting." Anton turned to Leon. "You know what Survey Command will say?" Leon met his gaze. "They'll say we found the first functioning tech from the Warden species, and we need to understand what it's doing." Anton said nothing for a while. Then he looked up at the empty sky above them, red-gray and endless. "Mark the grid. Begin clearing operations at dawn. I want structural scans before anyone puts a finger on that surface." Beth turned away quickly. Leon could tell she was hiding her grin. As the others dispersed, Leon remained kneeling beside the artifact. Wind swept a layer of dust across his boots. His visor reflected the ridged edge beneath him, unmoving, unassuming. But humming. Just beneath the crust of a dead world, something ancient had waited. And now it had been found. The dig site expanded overnight. By sunrise, 10 modular shelters had unfolded along the ridge of Theta 9's Kepri crater. Crawler bots moved in coordinated spirals, clearing dust layers while shielding exposed surfaces from further abrasion. A static field had been activated around the site perimeter, standard for unknown contact zones, though rarely needed. Anton Miles stood with arms crossed near the central scaffold, reviewing the feed from a hovering drone. His jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the excavation map projected across his visor. 6 signatures, he muttered. Not one. Leon stepped beside him, adjusting the strap on his belt harness. They're arrayed in a radial pattern, symmetrical, layered beneath the rock strata. That would suggest design, Anton said, his voice dry. More than that, Beth added, joining them. They're aligned according to polar arc vectors. Whoever built this didn't just plant machines, they built a system. Anton glanced at her. How deep? Top nodes are within 30 meters. Others stretch down past 100. We've only brushed the edge. Felix walked up carrying a core sample tube, its contents dark with fused sediment and flecks of the same metallic compound they'd uncovered yesterday. This stuff doesn't match any alloy in our catalog, he said. No oxidation. No magnetization either. Leon took the sample, turning it in the pale light. So it's not shielding. Then what's it doing? Felix shrugged. It's not conducting energy in any normal way, but when I ran a thermal probe, the layer absorbed it instantly, and then re-emitted it, 10 seconds later, modulated into a pattern. Like a data echo, Beth said. Leon tapped into his wrist pad and pulled up the signal archive. This is the pattern Felix picked up before we dug it out. He let the waveform play in a loop, a low-frequency hum, rising into tight harmonic peaks, repeating every 14 seconds. Beth studied it. That's not just a ping. That's a message loop. Then someone or something is still running this thing, Leon said. Anton turned away from the projection. And now that we've touched it, they know we're here. A silence passed between them before he continued. We've just received orders from Survey Command. We're invoking Protocol Zeta. Leon blinked. You're serious? It's not a drill, Anton said. They don't want this site touched further until an internal clearance team arrives. Zeta locks everything down for 96 hours, Beth said. If we stop now, thermal levels could drop and destabilize what we've exposed. This structure isn't built to be halfway unearthed. Anton met her stare. We'll monitor it. But no one breaks containment until the directive team lands. Felix frowned. And what if something in there breaks it first? Leon took a step back from the others, gaze drifting to the crater's edge. The exposed artifact, the interface, he was now convinced, was silent. It hadn't emitted a single pulse since they cleared the upper ring. But the soil around it had warmed 2 degrees, and the signal hadn't stopped. It's responding, Leon said, half to himself. Then let it wait, Anton replied. You're on analysis detail. Felix, full site mapping. Beth, you're with me on artifact containment protocols. Leon turned toward the artifact one last time before walking away. He wasn't sure what troubled him more, the strange humming in the air, or the way his own instincts were beginning to echo it. Whatever this thing was, it hadn't been left behind by accident. The shuttle cut through Theta 9's upper atmosphere without a sound audible from the surface. From the crater rim, Leon watched the descent as 3 long shadows slid across the dust field ahead of the landing zone. The incoming directive team was early. Too early. The shuttle came down with a muted impact, hydraulic plates engaging to distribute the load. Its hull bore no insignia, just dull gray panels, and the unmistakable black trim of interplanetary survey oversight. Beth stood to Leon's left, arms crossed. You ever work with Zeta-level teams before? Leon nodded once. Once. Arcus Prime. They sealed a whole mountain range for containment testing. Never published what they found. Felix approached from behind, data tablet tucked under one arm. I counted 5 life signs on board. 4 standard crew, 1 command core, no med unit, no Zenobio, That's not a science team. The shuttle's gangway dropped with a hydraulic hiss. The first figure emerged, tall, rigid posture, matte black exo-armor without rank badges. His gait was measured, intentional. He didn't look around. He didn't need to. Directive doesn't send watchers unless they already know what they're walking into, Beth murmured. Leon stepped forward as the lead approached. I'm Leon Hale, site discoverer and field lead for... You're not in command anymore, the figure interrupted. His voice carried a precise accent, mid-Terran clipped with old spacer syllables. Directive command assumed oversight as of 42 minutes ago. I am Commander Revan. My team is authorized to enforce Zeta Protocol until we've concluded our assessment. Anton joined them, his expression rigid. You're early. Revan ignored the remark and gestured to the shuttle. Two more operatives emerged, followed by a tall, narrow man carrying a sensor unit molded to fit his left arm like a second skin. The man's eyes shimmered faintly under the visor, optic mods, no doubt, tuned to a spectrum well beyond human range. Beth leaned closer to Leon. That one's not just a tech. Leon nodded. I noticed. Revan continued. We will begin by isolating your team's logs. External transmissions will be frozen. No unauthorized access past level 3 perimeter zones. Show us to the primary artifact. The walk down to the dig was silent, except for the crunch of boots on dry sediment. Wind curled faint trails of dust behind them. When they reached the exposed structure, Leon stepped aside to let Revan's team approach first. The tall tech crouched by the alien interface. He extended his left arm, and the device began to scan automatically. It projected no visible light, but the ridged plate beneath the surface began to vibrate faintly. So subtle, only those within a few meters noticed. Felix's voice came over comms. That vibration. It didn't start until now. Beth watched the surface. They activated it, somehow. The tech stood and nodded once to Revan. The node is cycling. There's more than one. I estimate 6 total, possibly 12. This is an outer link. The true interface is buried deeper. Revan turned to Leon. Why did you dig here? It wasn't random, Leon said. We traced a signal pattern up from the plateau wall. The data led us to this formation. Revan considered him for a moment, then walked to the edge of the nearest excavation trench. He peered into the carved slope below, where another fragment had been partially unearthed, slightly larger, curved inward like a basin or lens. We'll expand this trench, he said. Seal the other sectors. I don't want exposure paths crisscrossing active geometry. Anton frowned. We were running a coordinated grid. Disrupting it could destabilize the outer edge. Revan looked at him. Noted. He turned back to his team. Prepare the zero exchange field. We descend at nightfall. Leon stepped toward Beth and kept his voice low. They didn't come here to observe. They knew exactly what was buried. Beth's reply was just as quiet. And they're not worried about what they'll find. That's what worries me. Overhead, the moonscape darkened as Theta 9's orbit swung beneath the gas giant's shadow once more. The dust settled. The air chilled. Below them, the machines waited, and something deep beneath the surface shifted. Not in motion, but in attention. The trench lights cast long beams across the exposed surface, cutting clean lines into the grayish dust. Beneath them, the second structure had been fully revealed, an embedded arc of fused alloy and unknown composite that curved into the rock like a buried jawbone. But it wasn't organic. Every line on its surface had intent. Leon crouched near the base, inspecting the inner ring. The material pulsed faintly when scanned, but with no obvious heat output or electromagnetic trace. It simply existed, like a loaded trap waiting for pressure. This isn't decorative, Felix said, kneeling beside him. Look, see the indentations? They match some kind of rotational movement. Something once turned inside this shell. Leon nodded. And these grooves are evenly worn, not fractured. That means it's been used. Repeatedly. A shadow moved above them. Beth, standing on the scaffold. The original layout maps show 3 other structures in similar arc formation, she called down. We assumed they were atmospheric stabilizers or solar reflectors, but they follow this exact geometry. Felix glanced up. If they're connected, we might be standing on a mechanism the size of a city block. Leon stood slowly, brushing dust from his gloves. Then we're not just dealing with control panels. This was built to do something, not just record, not just monitor. Beth climbed down the scaffold to join them. She held a tablet in one hand, open to a translation sheet. I started isolating symbols from the ridges. No language match, but look here. She pointed to a sequence etched near the core. The markings looked like flowing arcs, not quite numbers or letters. Still, Leon could see rhythm in them. Patterns. A kind of syntax. The last 2 symbols repeat every 32 characters, she continued. That's not coincidence. It's a checksum or closing bracket. Code logic. Felix leaned closer. Are you saying this thing's programmed? Beth nodded. More than that. It's waiting. Leon stared at the machine. Waiting for what? No one answered. The structure's surface remained inert, but there was something about the texture. Too smooth for erosion, too complex for ornament. He stepped back and looked up toward the crater wall, where Revan's team had begun drilling into a 3rd location. Heavy clamps were lowering a fusion rig into place, overseen by the same silent tech with the optic enhancements. Beth lowered her voice. They haven't shared anything with us. No scan data, no logs. Felix scowled. Which means they've found something. Leon's gaze drifted to the ridge. Or they already knew it was here. Just then, his comlink chimed. It was Anton, voice tight. Leon, report to North Trench Sector 3. We've uncovered another layer. You're going to want to see it. The 3 of them moved quickly, following the trench line across a field of temporary power anchors and dust tarp. Anton stood near a vertical cut in the crater floor. Beside him, a drill rig had exposed what looked like a sealed door. No handles, no hinges, just a slightly recessed surface, blackened by age but unmarred by debris. A single central indentation, shaped like a teardrop. We found it under a second crust, Anton said. No connecting tunnel, no descent ramp, just a doorway. Beth stepped forward and ran her scanner over the indentation. Same material, but this is active. The scanner readout flickered. Leon looked to Anton. Has anyone touched it yet? No, Anton replied. Not until we understand what it's keyed to. Felix broke the silence. That's not a door you walk through. Leon turned. What do you mean? Felix's face was grim. It's a conduit. The surface curvature, the indentation, the alignment. All wrong for manual passage, but perfect for transmission. Whatever it connects to isn't on this level. Leon stared at the structure. The longer he looked, the less it resembled a doorway. It was a socket. Something, maybe someone, was meant to stand there, or kneel, or connect. This isn't a dig anymore, he said quietly. It's an interface hub. A machine that needs an operator. Anton crossed his arms. And we have no idea what happens if we trigger it. Beth looked at Leon. But you still want to? He didn't answer, because part of him already felt the outline of the indentation in his palm. The rain of dust from the last drill pass hadn't yet settled when Beth stepped into the alcove. Her tablet flickered as she adjusted the contrast filters, coaxing shapes from the dull surface of the outer wall. The structure was deeper than expected, 3 meters below the surface layer, embedded in an encasement of fused sediment and alien alloy. It curved inward, creating a hollow recess, its interior walls marked with a faint glow from glyphs that had not been there minutes ago. Leon, she said into her comm, you need to see this. He arrived moments later, crouched beside her, his visor filtering the faint bioluminescence rising from the script. The marks weren't written so much as grown into the wall, like old coral etched in copper. "What changed?" he asked. I ran a surface scan at standard frequency. Nothing happened. Then I increased the modulation into subharmonics, just low enough to nudge molecular resonance. This lit up. Felix appeared behind them. "Why is it always your scans that wake the ruins?" Beth ignored the jab and pointed to the largest set of symbols. This arrangement's repeated 3 times across the site. Every instance appears at entry points. Leon stared at the markings. At first glance, they resembled orbital notations, intersecting curves, branching loops, but overlaid with irregular strokes and mirrored sigils. "I don't read alien," Felix muttered, "but that looks like a stop sign." Beth zoomed in. "It's more structured than that. Look at these spacings. 4-line clusters, each terminating in an inverse symbol. It resembles directive phrasing." Anton's voice broke into their channel. "We're rerouting energy from Sector 4 to the North Conduit. Status?" Beth responded first. "Anton, we've found interface glyphs, possibly warnings. I don't recommend further power routing until we parse this." "Too late. Revan's crew already tapped into the 3rd relay. They're running a test cycle." Felix looked up sharply. "They're drawing current through alien conduits?" Leon rose to his feet. "We need access to their scan logs." Beth shook her head. "They're locked, but I can try to intercept the signal bleed." Leon keyed into the main site link. "Felix, help her route through the auxiliary feed. Use Relay 3, cross-link it to my core tablet. I'll get us admin-level visuals." "Already on it," Felix said, tapping furiously. Beth moved back from the wall. "Look, I translated part of this. Not language in the normal sense, more like a framework, a structure to convey intent." "And?" Leon asked. She tapped her screen. The translation rendered as symbols, then auto-converted to basic phonetic representations. "Bind that which spills. Frame that which breathes. Do not unseal." Beth exhaled. "It's not a warning to us. It's a record of what they did. They trapped something, and they were afraid of it getting out." Leon stared at the glowing wall. The shapes began to take on a pattern in his mind, like veins through stone, like circuitry, like architecture designed to hold. Felix looked uneasy. If they locked it away, they had a reason. Anton rejoined them in person, walking briskly into the trench. Revan's team activated a sequence node. Something shifted in the eastern sector. "We have a structural anomaly." Beth turned to him. "Tell them to shut it down." Anton's face was pale. "They're not responding." Leon grabbed his pack and pulled on his helmet. "Then we need to see it ourselves." As they climbed out of the trench, Leon paused once more at the glyphs. The glow had begun to dim, fading into the surface like embers cooling. But the meaning lingered. Not a threat, not a curse. A message from a vanished civilization, whispered across time. Do not unseal. The wind had shifted. Even in the thin atmosphere of Theta 9, the dust no longer drifted in its usual steady flow across the Kepri crater. Now it curled upward in small spirals, as if drawn toward invisible heat. Leon stood beside Anton and Beth as they stared into the east trench, where Revan's team had triggered a partial opening in the substrate. The newly exposed corridor led downward at a sharp incline, too perfect for natural formation. The alien stone along the passage was smooth, but mottled with faint discolorations, almost as if it had been exposed to fire. Or something worse. Did they breach it deliberately? Leon asked. Anton exhaled slowly. The energy spike we detected 30 minutes ago came from this direction. Revan hasn't reported back. Beth ran her scanner over the edge. There's a field across the entrance, not energy-based. It's a pressure fluctuation, barely detectable, like the corridor itself is regulating passage. Felix arrived, flanked by one of Revan's junior techs, a younger man named Dorian. His face was pale behind the visor. They went inside, Dorian said. All four of them. Revan gave the order. The entrance sealed behind them for a minute, then unlocked again. but they haven't checked in since. Beth's brow furrowed. What was their last message? Dorian swallowed. Just one word. In their encrypted channel. Fracture. Anton turned to Leon. You still want to follow them? We're already exposed, Leon said. If they triggered something, we need to know what. Leaving it sealed won't make it go away. Felix shook his head. I'd rather deal with the unknown than wait for it to walk out and meet us. The team readied in silence. 5 entered the corridor. Leon, Beth, Felix, Anton, and Dorian. Felix carried a relay dropper to extend signal back to Surface Command. Beth recorded a full scan as they descended. The corridor dropped 40 meters before leveling into a chamber shaped like a hexagon, with a narrow pathway down the middle flanked by recessed alcoves. The light from their helmets reflected oddly. Some surfaces absorbed it completely. Others shimmered like oil under static glass. Keep to the center, Leon warned. Walls may be reactive. They passed the first alcove. It was empty. The second, too. But the third held something. It was a device of some kind, shaped like a tripod fused into the wall. Thin coils wound around it, extending to the ceiling. At its base, scattered debris, not equipment, bones. Beth crouched slowly. Human. Not ours, Felix said. Look at the suit fragment. Outdated seal design. Probably 50 years old, maybe older. Dorian stared. There were no logged expeditions here before ours. Leon swept his light ahead. Then someone didn't log it. At the far end of the chamber, the corridor split. One path curved left into darkness. The other dropped into a vertical shaft, lit from below by a dull violet glow. As they reached the split, Anton paused. We pick one. We don't have time to sweep both, Leon said. We go right. Whatever energy signature was recorded earlier came from below. Beth hesitated. Leon... But he was already moving toward the shaft. He stepped into the narrow lift cavity, just wide enough for one person, and began his descent using the embedded rungs along the side. One by one, the others followed. Halfway down, Leon stopped. His light caught something along the wall, a recess, like a slot. Smooth. Polished. No dust. He reached toward it, then froze. Below, something moved. Felix's voice came through his comm. Did you see that? I saw it, Leon said. Hold position. A shadow flickered across the lower level. Then another, but no sound followed. Leon gripped the final rung and dropped into the chamber. The room was circular, the walls marked by long vertical lines like conduit spines. At the center stood a pillar made of the same gray-black alloy as the surface machines. But here, alive with pulsing veins of blue light. Felix scanned it. It's not just reacting, it's scanning us. Beth's tablet pinged. Then all the lights in the chamber went out. 1 second of silence, then a sharp crack, like pressure collapsing inward. Dorian screamed. When the lights returned, he was gone. No blood, no debris, no malfunction on his tracker, just absence. Beth's hand trembled. His suit feed just cut off, not offline, erased. Felix backed toward the wall. We need to leave, now. Anton's voice came in harsh. No sudden moves. That sound, it didn't come from machinery, it came from the walls. Leon turned to the pillar. Its glow had shifted. The blue was gone. Now it pulsed red. And beneath that color, etched faintly along its base, were new glyphs. Leon stepped closer. Beth read them aloud. First key opened, one process awakened. Do not continue. They stared at the pillar, at the vanished teammate, at the chamber that had just claimed someone without warning, and knew this was only the beginning. Leon retraced his steps up the shaft, the weight of silence pressing harder with each rung. The loss of Dorian sat like static across the comms. No screams, no trace, just a sudden break in presence. His name still flashed on the shared roster. His vitals were gone. Anton was the last one to climb out. As he emerged, he sealed the access ring with a remote patch. "Until we understand what that pillar does," he said, "no one goes back down." Felix exhaled. Too late for one of us. Beth checked her scanner again. The pillar's output had stopped. No more pulses, no active emissions. But its red glow remained. It was waiting. They returned to the upper chamber and gathered around the split corridor. The left path, previously dark, was now lit. Thin lines of amber light trailed down the walls and ceiling in perfect symmetry, curving along seams they hadn't seen before. Leon pointed. "The machine below changed the state of the structure. These lights are guiding us." Felix muttered, "Guiding us where and why?" Beth's gaze narrowed. "I don't think this facility is a tomb. It's a maze, not to keep us out, to see how far we'll go in." Anton stepped forward. "We don't follow blindly. We test the path." He pulled a small relay drone from his hip and activated it. The sphere hovered, blinked twice, then zipped down the lit passage ahead. They watched on Beth's screen as the feed streamed in, walls lined with deep grooves, like folded surfaces. Every 15 meters, the corridor split briefly into two paths before reconverging. After 90 meters, the drone hit a wide circular chamber, hexagonal support beams, smooth black stone beneath. And at the far end, a set of doors. But only one was open. The feed stuttered. The drone blinked out. Beth's display cut to static. Felix leaned over. "Did it just—" "Gone," Beth said. "Cut clean, same as Dorian." Leon turned to Anton. "This place tests more than our sensors." They moved forward slowly, scanning as they advanced. The new chamber was exactly as the drone had shown. 6 doors in a semicircle. 5 were sealed. The 6th stood open, showing only dark beyond it. "Symbols above each door," Beth said, eyes sweeping the archways. "Same script as before, but the arrangement is different." Leon examined them. "These aren't warnings. They're identifiers. Room codes, maybe. Or functions." Above the open door, 3 characters shimmered faintly in violet. Beth translated. "Echo, gate, trial." Felix looked at her. "That's not cryptic at all." Anton stepped closer. "No external threats, no traps that we can detect, but we know the cost of guessing wrong." Leon crouched near the floor by the open door. The stone was faintly scorched. Not recent, but not ancient either. He spoke without turning. "This one's been used before, several times." Beth ran another scan. "There's a light pressure differential inside. Not dangerous, but distinct. It's a separate environmental state, artificially maintained." Leon reached into his pack and pulled a handheld emitter. "I go in first." Anton nodded. "We stagger entry. No one goes farther than 10 meters until we confirm integrity." Felix groaned, but followed as second. Beth third, Anton fourth. The chamber on the other side of the door expanded downward like a shallow bowl. The air tasted different, cleaner, filtered, and above them the ceiling was layered with crystal-like panels. Not natural, not ornamental. A sound shimmered through the floor, barely audible. Leon turned toward it. "You hear that?" Beth adjusted her helmet's filters. "Yes, audio loop, repeating tones, 6 notes, then a pause, then again." Anton checked his slate. Structure-wide resonance detected. The sound's not just audio. It's part of the system's access protocol. On the far wall, another set of symbols flickered to life. Beth read aloud, "Keys are sound. Doors are echoes. Choose the memory that does not belong." Felix paled. "What the hell does that mean?" Leon turned toward the curved wall, now shimmering with projections, images, broken and incomplete. A city in starlight, a burning sky, an alien structure collapsing inward, and then a single still frame of Earth. Not recent. Earth as it appeared thousands of years ago, its atmosphere, landmass, and oceans rendered from orbital perspective in perfect, ancient detail. Beth's voice was hollow. That's not a map. That's a memory. Felix backed away. How would they know Earth? Leon stared at the projection. Because they saw it. The structure didn't just test the intruder's decisions. It tested their past. And now, somewhere in the machine's core, something else had turned its attention toward them. The air shifted the moment they crossed the second threshold. It wasn't a drop in temperature or pressure. It was subtler, like stepping through a thin curtain of sound. A low, thrumming resonance passed through Leon's boots into his spine. For an instant, his thoughts splintered, as though someone had taken a snapshot of his memories and scattered them across glass. Then it was gone. The room opened into a vast, hexagonal atrium. At its center stood a vertical column of translucent material, reaching from floor to ceiling. Thin strands of light moved through it like threads pulled by invisible hands. It pulsed, slow and rhythmic, like breath or thought. Felix adjusted his visor. This place wasn't made to contain something. It was made to reflect. Beth walked forward, slowly circling the column. Her voice echoed faintly. It's a cognitive chamber. Anton frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Beth stopped, pointing to the floor. Circular rings expanded from the column's base like ripples. Each ring was lined with a symbol. Some they had seen before. Others were new. This whole room is part of a logic engine, she said. It reacts to perception. Each observer changes the output. Felix stepped beside her. You mean we're inside a machine that reads how we think? Worse, she replied. It shows us what we expect to see. Leon turned in a slow circle. The room was shifting around him, subtle changes. The walls now bore images, mismatched scenes flickering like old film, a field under double suns, a corridor of twisted steel, a child's drawing floating in zero gravity. One wall showed Earth's moon, but the shadows were wrong. Another showed a structure that resembled the one they were in, but inverted, as if they were beneath it, not inside. Anton's voice dropped low. This is a misdirection array. Beth nodded. It's designed to split reality into parallel layers, and if you're not careful, you get lost in the wrong one, Felix finished. Leon approached the central column. The light inside reacted, threads curling inward, wrapping around a small spherical core near the middle. He raised his hand. The moment he touched it, the room fractured. Not literally, but perceptually. Leon staggered backward, no longer surrounded by his team. The chamber was still there, but it was mirrored. Another Beth stood across from him, another Felix, both staring at something just outside his view. When he turned, he saw himself, standing, hand raised, frozen in the motion of touching the column. Then the lights flickered. He blinked, and suddenly Beth was at his side again, grabbing his arm. Leon, pull back. He jerked away from the column. The illusion collapsed. The mirror image faded. He stumbled. That wasn't a vision. That was a full loop. I was in the wrong version of the chamber. Beth steadied him. It's keyed to identity feedback. If you stay in one memory too long, you lock into it. Felix looked pale. Like Dorian. Anton turned toward the opposite side of the room, where a new doorway had opened. Then we don't interact again. We move through, fast. Beth shook her head. It doesn't work like that. We have to interact. The door only opens when a pattern is complete. This place forces you to make a choice, to accept a version of events as real. Leon glanced at the ring markings on the floor. His eyes tracked the symbols again. One of them now pulsed. A sound loop began overhead, notes in triplet rhythm. They'd heard it in the last chamber, but here it had structure, a sequence, a progression. Beth stared up. Those tones are keys, like before, but now they're tied to visual anchors. Memories, Leon said, but not ours. Felix tapped his wrist console. They're decaying. The projections are degrading. We have to choose one to stabilize. Leon took a breath. Which one gets us out? Beth pointed to the one symbol now glowing amber. This one. I've seen it before. On the glyph wall in the corridor. It wasn't from Earth. Anton narrowed his eyes. So we pick the alien memory. No, Beth corrected. We accept it. As if it were ours. That's the only way the door opens. They stood in silence. Then Leon nodded. Do it. Beth touched the glyph. The room froze. Then, slowly, the column at the center retracted into the floor. The walls blurred into a soft, neutral hue. The lights returned to standard white. And ahead, another corridor. This one didn't glow. No projections, no distortions. Just a hallway, leading down into darkness. Felix muttered, I hate this place. Leon didn't respond. Because part of him still wasn't sure they were back in the right version of reality. The hallway beyond the chamber of multiplicity was quiet. No lights pulsed. No glyphs marked the walls. Only the steady crunch of boots on ancient alloy accompanied the four who remained. Leon, Beth, Felix, and Anton. They didn't speak. There was little left to say. Each of them carried something now. Memories that weren't theirs. Images and sensations stitched into thought by proximity to the column's interface. Echoes of lives lived long before human history had learned to write. Leon felt the remnants the strongest. His fingertips still tingled. Not pain, just pressure, as if something vast and unseen had pressed its palm against his. Beth walked beside him, her eyes scanning for glyphs that never appeared. Whatever was left behind, it wasn't just data. Felix spoke from behind them. No, it was memory, raw, interfaced, dumped into us like we were terminals. Anton, still pacing steadily, kept his voice even. And if that's true, it means we're more than visitors now. We're becoming part of the archive. Leon stopped. Do you remember a field of glass? He asked. Sky filled with fractures, structures bent inward, like they'd been folded back on themselves. Beth looked at him sharply. Yes, I saw that too. Felix swore under his breath. Me three. I thought it was a vision, a side effect. No, Leon said. It's a shared imprint. Anton nodded. Then it's not metaphor. It's real. That place existed. Or still exists. They resumed walking until the corridor bent downward into a circular descent tunnel. Steps molded from the same alloy spiraled below. A faint vibration met them halfway down. Not mechanical, not seismic. Rhythmic. Measured. Heartbeat, Felix offered. No organ could pulse like that, Beth replied. At the base of the spiral, the room widened. It was colder here, though there were no vents, no natural draft. They entered a chamber shaped like a lens, curved inward along both floor and ceiling. The surfaces were covered in soft depressions, rounded indents like fossilized handprints, thousands of them, each just slightly different in shape and scale. Beth knelt near one of them and traced her glove across its edge. These were used for something. Hands, maybe faces. Memory points. Leon examined the center of the room. A pedestal rose from the floor, no taller than a meter. Upon it, a flat circular plate rested inlaid with concentric rings. Symbols swirled in loose formation across its surface, unfixed, slowly rotating like free particles in liquid. I don't think this is a control interface, Leon said. It's a conduit. Anton stepped forward. To where? Beth was silent for a moment. Then she said, Inside. Leon looked up. Inside what? She gestured to the room itself. Not the structure, not the planet. Us. Felix recoiled slightly. You're saying this machine is reading us, writing to us, through us. Beth touched the edge of the pedestal. More than that, it's matching us, looking for something familiar enough to unlock whatever it stored. The pedestal brightened under her hand. The symbols spun faster. A low hum began to resonate from the ceiling, then the walls, then the floor. The depressions, hundreds of them, started to glow faintly blue. Leon stepped back. "Beth, let go of it!" But the plate pulsed once, and then Beth froze. Not in shock, not unconscious, just still. Her eyes remained open, her breathing steady. Felix rushed forward, grabbing her arm. "Beth!" Leon grabbed his shoulder. "Stop. She's still with us." Anton spoke through clenched teeth. "Then what the hell is she seeing?" Beth's voice came softly, distant. They tried to stop it. Whatever it was. It wasn't just a war, it was containment. They didn't destroy their enemy. They buried it, but not in the ground. Leon leaned in. "Where?" Beth's gaze met his, inside themselves. A sudden tremor rolled through the chamber, just one pulse, sharp and deliberate. The lights along the ceiling dimmed, then held steady. Beth stepped back from the pedestal. Her voice returned to normal, but quieter. "There's a second layer, beneath this one." Felix narrowed his eyes. "Another chamber?" "No," she said. "A vault, and it's not made of metal. It's made of mind." Anton looked toward the entrance. "We've reached the psychological control core." Beth shook her head. "We've reached the beginning." Leon turned toward the pedestal again. On its surface, one glyph remained, larger than the others, familiar. The one they'd seen etched into the first buried doorway, "Do not unseal," and now it was blinking. The blinking glyph hovered above the pedestal, steady and deliberate. It cast no shadow but seemed to pull the surrounding light inward. 3 concentric rings rotated silently around it, each etched with smaller characters, none human. Leon stood with his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the motionless center. "It's a choice," he said quietly. "Another layer. Another gate." Beth rubbed the back of her hand, where faint lines from the pedestal's light had left a subtle afterimage. "This isn't just a vault. It's a marker. A place the warden species wanted us to find and fear." Felix moved cautiously around the room, eyes darting between the ancient impressions in the walls and the symbols still faintly visible beneath the surface. "If these really are wardens," he said, "then what exactly were they trying to lock down?" Anton stepped forward, his voice measured. "Not a weapon, not in the conventional sense. The memory Beth channeled, that wasn't destruction. It was containment. Sacrifice." Beth nodded. "They didn't win their war. They ended it by removing themselves from it." Leon approached the pedestal again. The blinking glyph now slowed. Each flash felt heavier, like a tolling bell across the surface of the mind. "What if this isn't a warning?" he said. "What if it's an invitation to understand why?" Felix opened his tablet and scanned the column one more time. Still no energy fluctuations, no defense systems. The structure's alive, but dormant. "Not dormant," Beth corrected. "Reserved. It's only showing what we're willing to see." Leon reached toward the surface. Beth stepped forward. "Wait!" But it was too late. His hand met the center of the glyph. The rings stopped. Every light in the room dimmed. And then projection. Not light, not sound. Memory. It hit all of them at once. A vast world covered in latticed towers of pale silver. Not built by hand, but grown from intention. Skies threaded with atmospheric fields. Oceans kept at perfect thermal balance. A society not ruled by dominance, but by intricate control. The wardens. They had shaped stars, stabilized dying systems, brought order to unstable sectors of the galaxy. Not for conquest, for equilibrium. But with that power came attention. Another presence, hidden, vast, patient, not of mind, not of body. A tide with no face. It came not to conquer, but to corrupt. The wardens couldn't destroy it, so they made themselves the barrier. Beth gripped her knees, eyes squeezed shut. They encoded parts of themselves into machines like this one. Not just knowledge, identity, triggers. Anton had gone pale. You mean this isn't just memory? Felix stared into nothing. It's a door and a key, made from what they were. Leon blinked away the vision. Then we're not explorers anymore. He looked down at his hand. The light from the glyph had vanished. In its place, his palm now bore a faint pattern, circular, interlocking. Beth whispered, "It marked you." "No," Leon said. "It recognized me." The far wall trembled. A seam opened down the middle, quiet and clean. Beyond it, a staircase descending into darkness, lined with vertical columns of unknown material. Their surfaces shimmered like they were underwater, though the air was still. Felix backed away. "We shouldn't go in there." Anton looked between them. "We've gone too far to stop." Beth spoke calmly. "We were meant to reach this point. They left a message for someone who could interpret it. They left it for us." Leon took the first step. "This isn't just a relic," he said. "This is where the last decision begins." The door closed behind them. The stairs curved down in complete silence. Not quiet, silent. Their boots struck each step with no echo, no reverberation, as if the chamber had swallowed sound along with everything else. The material beneath Leon's feet no longer resembled metal or stone. It shimmered faintly beneath the surface like frozen liquid, never still, yet perfectly solid. Beth glanced back at Felix. "You feel it too?" He nodded. "Time's wrong here. Not slowed, just altered." Anton touched the wall with his gloved hand. No decay, no dust. The interior's ageless. Beth pointed toward the bottom. They built this space to stay untouched, a vault immune to entropy. The stairs finally ended at a flat platform, facing an enormous arch, tall and narrow, its frame engraved with rotating glyphs. Unlike previous ones, these moved continuously without prompting. A slow spiral of symbols rotated inward, as if being drawn into the door itself. Leon stepped closer. The wardens didn't just build this to last. They sealed a process inside it, something still running. Beth was scanning the arch's frequency field when her screen stuttered. Felix narrowed his eyes. "Glitch?" "No, it's syncing," she said. "To us." Anton's expression tightened. "What kind of sync?" "Neurological pattern recognition, based on what we've seen, touched, and thought." Leon frowned. "It's learning from us." "No," Beth said. "It's remembering through us." The doorway pulsed once. Light flowed outward in a controlled arc. Not blinding, more like the parting of a curtain. The interior beyond was not a room, but a sphere. They stepped through and found themselves suspended in a hollow chamber, its floor flat, but its walls curving up and around until they met in a dome above. Along the inner shell, scenes unfolded, holographic, immersive, ancient. The birth of stars, the collapse of a world. And then, a long corridor of vaults, each sealed with glyphs matching the ones on Leon's palm. "They stored parts of themselves here," Beth whispered. "Memories, concepts, identities, not for preservation, for return." Leon turned to her. "Return how?" Felix answered, "Through us." He gestured toward one wall, where now a glowing map displayed 6 blinking points, 3 still dim, 3 lit. "Every location we activated sent data to this chamber. It's been tracking us." Anton was watching the central pedestal as it emerged from the floor, much like the one in the previous chamber. But this one was different. Inside it, frozen in transparent stasis, hovered a crystalline structure, not large but dense. Layers wrapped tightly in a shell of fine latticework. No light touched it directly, but it gleamed from within. Leon approached. "That's not memory." "No," Beth said. Its identity, a full cognitive core, one of them. Felix took a slow step back. We're standing in a time-locked broadcast system. The Warden race embedded pieces of themselves across the galaxy, then waited for someone compatible. Beth spoke quietly. They didn't leave to be remembered. They left to continue, by merging into what came after them. Leon stared at the hovering core. It vibrated softly, like a waiting thought. Anton drew his sidearm and raised it toward the core. Then we end it, right here. Leon stepped between him and the pedestal. "Don't," he said. "This is too dangerous," Anton replied. "You've seen what it can do." "Yes," Leon said, "but it didn't destroy us. It opened itself. It gave us choice." Beth's voice was calm. "And if we destroy it, we destroy the one species that may have ever figured out how to stop what they feared." The lights within the vault pulsed again. The 6 points on the wall map shifted. Now 4 were lit. Beth turned to Leon. "It's not finished yet. One more interface lies ahead." Anton lowered the weapon slowly. "You're trusting something alien to guide you." "I'm not trusting," Leon said. "I'm listening." Beth moved to the map and touched the final unlit point. Another seam opened behind the chamber. The path forward wasn't metal or stone, but a corridor of light, with no visible end. Time inside the vault shifted again, and somewhere beyond it, something ancient stirred. The corridor was not built of matter in the traditional sense. Each step felt like walking across frozen time, solid underfoot, but alive with motion just beneath the surface. Patterns flowed beneath Leon's boots in slow arcs, stars forming, galaxies collapsing, ancient languages speaking themselves into silence. The path led them to a vast chamber that bent perception. What should have been a room became a horizon, circular and endless. No walls, no ceiling, only sky, dark but studded with thin veins of gold light, pulsing like the nervous system of a long-forgotten god. At the center stood a monolith, featureless and vast, black not in color but in presence. It absorbed attention, bending it toward itself like gravity. Felix kept his eyes low. This is the core, isn't it?" Beth nodded. "Yes, the Warden root memory." Anton's voice was subdued. "Or whatever's left of it." As they approached the monolith, the lines of light arced overhead and converged behind them, sealing the corridor. No way back now. Leon stepped closer. A vibration crawled up his spine. Not hostile, not physical. It was the sensation of being noticed by something vast. Not an intelligence in the way humans understood it. This thing thought in eons, not hours. Then the monolith spoke. It didn't use sound. It used understanding. A thought pressed into Leon's mind, not like language, but like a memory he'd always had and never known. "You are patterned, you are unfinished, you are enough." Beth staggered slightly. "It's interfacing with all of us at once." Anton stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" The answer came not as a word, but a moment, a glimpse of what the Wardens had witnessed. A civilization rising too fast, consuming too wide, speaking in thousands of forms and yet hearing nothing. The Wardens had tried to guide it. They failed. What came next wasn't war. It was infection. A thought seeded into minds like a virus, language stripped of meaning, action stripped of memory. The intruder never attacked. It rewrote, erased identity not through destruction, but through imitation. Beth's voice cracked. It wasn't a species. It was a concept, a mind made from entropy. It hungered for form. The Wardens gave it one, themselves. Felix swallowed. They became its jail. The monolith's surface shifted. For a moment, Leon saw reflections, not his own, but echoes of others. Tall beings with layered limbs and calm expressions, their bodies fracturing into static as they channeled themselves into vaults like this one. Anton stepped back. If we're here, then the jail's failing. You opened paths, you awoke threads, but you are not yet the key. Leon spoke, barely breathing. Then why let us this far? To warn, to prepare, to choose. The sky above them changed. No longer the structure. They saw Earth, not as it was now, but as it could become. Cities reshaped by recursive logic, people speaking in loops, forgetting language they'd known the day before, entire cultures rewritten into mimicry. Beth gasped. It's already happening. Felix whispered. Signal leaks, artifact activations. That last Warden fragment, it's not holding it back anymore. The last seal must not break. Leon looked up. Then tell us how to stop it. Silence. Then, one of you must become the door. Anton stared. What does that mean? Beth's voice trembled. The only thing that can hold this mind back is another, a conscious barrier, like the Wardens became. Leon understood then. It wasn't a machine that needed reactivation. It was a choice. Someone had to stay, bind themselves to the Warden imprint, become the final lock. Felix turned to him. No, you can't. You were the one it recognized. If anyone leaves... Leon stepped forward. It chose me for a reason. It showed me its past. The monolith pulsed again, slowly, almost regretfully. One seed, one carrier. The mind must be contained, or everything will become it. Beth stepped toward him. There must be another way. Leon shook his head. This was never just exploration. We weren't meant to learn. We were meant to decide. The chamber began to shift again. The return path opened. Just enough room for 3. Leon faced them. You need to go. Warn Earth. Warn everyone. The trap isn't here anymore. It's spreading. Felix's eyes burned. You'll be trapped. Forever. Leon smiled faintly. No, not trapped. Holding the line. Beth stared a moment longer, then turned and walked toward the exit, the others behind her. As the door began to close, Leon turned to face the monolith one last time. The light surrounded him. Then the vault sealed. Time no longer moved. And a mind older than stars exhaled into silence. They ascended without speaking. The vault had sealed behind them. The light corridor dimmed as they passed, guiding them back through the chambers, past the frozen impressions in the wall, through the spiral steps, beneath the ancient glyphs now fading to gray. Beth was the first to break the silence. I can still hear him. Anton kept walking. Residual contact. Neural imprint from proximity. It'll fade. No, she said. It's not left over. It's active. Felix stopped mid-step. What do you mean? Beth turned to them, her voice steady. Leon didn't just merge with the Warden core. He's still reaching out, through us. A tether. One last strand connecting that mind to this reality. Anton looked at her hard. Then we sever it. That was the plan. Felix narrowed his eyes. No, that was your plan. Beth stepped closer to Anton. We were meant to return, not to break the chain, but to warn. Anton's jaw tightened. And what exactly do you think happens if that tether holds? You think the Warden core just stays still? Contained forever? Eventually it slips. It grows. Felix glanced toward the vaulted ceiling. So what are you saying? I'm saying, Anton replied, if we let the conduit remain active, then we've just delivered Earth the last piece of the virus it's been trying to keep out. Beth turned toward Felix. What if the virus isn't the threat anymore? What if the Warden mind evolved to resist it? We didn't see an extinction. We saw a sacrifice and a transformation. Felix shook his head. Transformation into what? Beth was quiet. Then, something we're not ready for. They reached the surface chamber. The dust was thinner now. The air felt stretched, Above them, Theta 9's pale sky spun slowly beneath the pull of the gas giant's gravitational curtain. A new structure had risen just outside the crater. A pillar of fractured alloy, as if pushed from below. Its angles sharp, unnatural. At its center, a faint pulse. Anton aimed his scanner. It wasn't here before. The vault pushed it up. Beth studied it. It's a relay tower, broadcasting something. Felix frowned. To what? She turned to them. To us. Her voice cracked slightly. Leon isn't a lock. He's a signal. Anton stepped away. Then we shut him down. We bring in orbital strikes and bury this place. Salt the planet if we have to. Felix raised a hand. Stop. Just stop. He looked between them. You didn't see what I saw. I didn't get words. I got an image. Earth, covered in identical towers. No people. No cities. Just function. That's the future if we break the wrong lock. Beth turned toward the tower. He left the choice to us. Anton spoke, low and final. We can't afford another voice in our networked systems, not one built by an extinct species and driven by an idea older than language. He raised his sidearm again. Beth stepped between him and the tower. I won't let you destroy it. The wind picked up, the tower's pulse accelerated. Then from nowhere a voice, calm, unforced, echoed across the air. I am still here. They froze. The voice was Leon's, but older, woven with tones not from his origin. Something had changed. The seal is not broken, not yet, but neither is it whole. The warden mind holds, but not alone. Beth whispered, he's becoming something new. The virus still seeks. It listens. It waits. But it fears form. It fears memory. I have both. Felix stepped forward. Then what do you need from us? Choice. You brought light into a sealed mind. Now carry that light outward, not as weapon, as witness. Anton lowered his weapon slowly. The sky above them rippled faintly. In orbit, distant satellites would already be receiving the relay's first bursts, pure data, ancient and encrypted, not from Earth, but echoing through it now. Beth turned to Felix. It's too late to undo what we've done. He nodded. Then we do what Leon asked. We warn. We prepare. Anton hesitated, then joined them. The tower pulsed again, brighter now. And behind it, the crater walls shifted, closing slowly, layer by layer. The warden vault was sealing once more. But this time, not out of fear. This time, it was waiting to be understood. The descent shuttle broke from orbit in silence. Beth stood at the viewing pane, watching the pale surface of Theta 9 shrink away beneath her. The crater was no longer visible. The vault had sealed completely, leaving only an uneven slope of dust and stone. No trace of what lay beneath or who remained. Felix sat nearby, running diagnostics. He hadn't spoken in 10 minutes, but Beth could see it in his posture, the weight of what they'd left behind. Anton was at the rear of the cabin, speaking in low tones to command on a secured channel. His report would go out filtered and redacted, like all things under Zeta protocol. No mention of the wardens, no mention of Leon. But truth had a way of escaping seals. Beth turned from the window. We can't keep this hidden. Felix looked up. You really think they'll listen? We return with no hard data, no footage, just scattered telemetry and one missing team member. She held up a small silver disc. Leon embedded the core signal into this relay before we left. It's encrypted. Can't be copied, can't be transmitted. Only decrypted once, by someone who chooses to remember, not exploit. Felix raised an eyebrow. You trust the next person to make the right call? Beth tucked the disc into her chest pocket. I trust that we weren't the last ones meant to find this. Anton approached. His expression was unreadable. Command authorized silent containment, he said. Theta 9 will be sealed. Orbital access restricted. Long-range scans purged from civilian channels. Beth didn't flinch. And Leon? Anton paused. There's no file, no official record of his last transmission. Felix stood. He gave up everything to stop something we barely understood. And you're telling me the only thing that survives is an empty crater and a blacked-out report? Anton looked between them. You think I like this? You think I wanted it to end this way? Beth stepped forward. It hasn't ended. She walked to the rear compartment and retrieved a sealed case, thick, shielded, pulsing faintly at its edges. The relay he built still functions, she said. And it's already syncing with deep storage. He left messages, not just words, experiences, memories from the Warden system, filtered through him. Felix nodded slowly. Then we carry it. Earth doesn't know what's coming. But now it has a warning, a guide. Anton stared at the case, then turned and walked away. The ship's intercom crackled. Entering slipstream. Hold positions. The cabin lights dimmed. Fields stabilized. Space folded inward, and the shuttle vanished into faster-than-light transit. Beth closed her eyes. Her thoughts were no longer her own, not entirely. There were fragments of something older now, patterns, instincts, songs without sound. And at the center of it all, Leon. She didn't know where he truly was, whether he still had form, whether the vault held him in body or only mind. But she felt his presence like a steady signal, pulsing behind the stars. Not broken, not lost, transformed. Some things can't be undone. Some locks aren't meant to open. And some choices, once made, leave no way back.